It all began with the disappearance of a young girl from Igbeda. No one noticed at first. In a place like Igbeda, silence often passed unnoticed, and absence learned how to hide between morning chores and evening fires. Girls vanished often enough, not in crowds, not with screams, but quietly, like breath leaving the body. Their absence slipped into the cracks of daily life and settled there, unchallenged. But this time, something felt different. She had gone to fetch water at dawn, when the air was still cool and the birds had not yet finished their first songs. Her calabash lay by the stream, tipped on its side. Her footprints stopped halfway down the path, as though the earth itself had swallowed her. And hanging in the air was a faint scent, burnt leaves, sharp and bitter, a smell that did not belong to morning. The village murmured in confusion. Some blamed strangers. Others whispered of wandering traders who stole women for distant lands. A few feared spirits that wandered too close to human homes. Yet suspicion never once brushed against Izemuo, the high priest who lived at the edge of Igbeda, where the forest thickened and the wind seemed to hold its breath. For 20 years, Izemuo had been the keeper of balance. Or so they believed. For 20 years, he had used charms woven from blood, breath, and secret incantations, words older than the hills themselves. At night, while the village slept, he called women to his hut. They came without waking, their feet moving as though guided by something older than thought. Some simply walked through their doorways, through open windows, as if drawn by the wind itself. Others left their beds, unaware of what compelled them, and arrived at the high priest's home as if by invisible threads. The charm worked by binding the will while keeping the mind asleep. The women moved willingly yet unconsciously, as though obeying a dream they could not recall. Once there, the women were held in a trance, their minds dulled by the charms that bound them. They did not resist because resistance was folded away with memory. In that place, they were shadows of themselves, voices silent, thoughts shuddered, limbs obedient without question. Izemuo took what he wanted. It was never spoken of, never remembered. By dawn, the women were returned, standing at the edge of the village or back in their own homes, as if they had never been gone. Their minds contained nothing of the night, their bodies only faint traces of pressure or bruises that faded quickly. No one spoke, no one accused. He remained untouched. Mothers worried quietly. Fathers searched when daughters went missing, only to weep with relief when they returned unharmed. The women themselves said nothing because nothing lived in their minds to say. The village trusted Izemuo, and trust, once planted deep enough, becomes blind. But one night the rhythm broke. 18 years earlier, Izemuo had seduced a woman who would become the mother of his daughter. She was young, vibrant, and she tasted like fresh palm wine. He would later say to himself, a memory he used to justify returning to her again and again. He seduced her repeatedly, under the guise of charm and pleasure, claiming it was for his preservation, for keeping his body strong, for fulfilling urges he could not deny. Yet, for other women, he only entered twice a measured ritual. With her, he lingered. He kept calling her, seducing her, until she carried the secret of his blood. When the woman's belly began to swell, she was cast from her husband's home. Accused of betrayal she could not disprove. She returned to her parents in shame, raising her child in quiet survival, never speaking of the man who had touched her life only once. Life was hard. She struggled to make ends meet, living under the weight of scandal and isolation. Her heart carried grief, and her body carried memories of what had been stolen from her. Ultimately, despair overcame her. Alone, burdened, she took her own life, leaving her daughter in the care of her grandmother. Izemuo never saw this daughter, never knew her face, until that night when the charm called her to him. The child grew into a young woman, unknown to him, and when he called her, the charm faltered. Blood remembers what the mind forgets. The spell slid over her like mist, failing to take hold. She walked to him as the others had, but her blood stirred, restless and resistant. When she returned home before dawn, something remained awake inside her, something she could not name. Weeks later, her belly began to swell. The village froze. How could a virgin be with child? She remembered nothing. Not the walk, not the hands, not the night, but something stirred inside her, restless and aching. The charm had weakened, not broken, but cracked enough for truth to seep through. During labor, pain tore memory open. She screamed, not only from pain but from remembrance. The darkness, the hut, the voice she knew but never questioned. The weight of him, the violation folded inside ritual. She screamed the truth of all those nights, names of women lost, of power stolen, of trust betrayed. And when the child finally came, she told her grandmother everything. The old woman listened without interrupting. Her face did not change, but her hands trembled. For years she had buried doubt beneath routine, fear beneath prayer. Now the truth sat between them, heavy and breathing. Could it be him? Could the man they trusted, the man they bowed to, be the one feeding on their daughters? Then others came forward. 5 more girls vanished over the following months. They returned hollow-eyed, quiet as shadows. One could barely walk, her body damaged by the nights under Izemio's control. Another stared endlessly at the sky, lips moving with words no one could hear. Fear took shape. Still, the villagers turned to Izemio for guidance, for cleansing, for answers. They did not know they were kneeling before the source of their suffering. The daughter, heavy with child, stood at the center of it all. Her condition was a violation of the highest order. In Igbeda, a father could not lie with his daughter. Such a union tore the world itself. Crops would fail. Children would die. The land would reject them all. The elders demanded the child be sacrificed. But she refused. She stood before them, body shaking, eyes steady. "If blood must be paid," she said, "then take mine." And so she gave herself, her body, her breath, her life. The earth trembled as she fell. The air thickened, then loosened, as though something ancient had exhaled. Her child lived. The curse lifted. The land accepted the offering. And Izemio, his power collapsed like ash. The truth surged through the village like floodwater. He was dragged from his hut, his charms scattered, his voice stripped of command. Justice slow, bitter, long delayed finally rose. He was slaughtered where he had committed his crimes. His hut caved in upon itself. His body vanished. No grave marked his end. After that, the disappearances ceased. The shrine was sealed. The drums fell silent. Mothers taught their daughters the language of warning, the way fear moves before it strikes. They taught them that obedience does not equal safety, and that the mind must be awake when the body is asleep. Years passed, and one evening, beneath a sky bruised with stars, an old woman sat before a fire. Her grandson sat close, knees drawn up, eyes reflecting flame and wonder. "This is why," she said softly, "we listen when something feels wrong. This is why we speak even when our voices shake. Silence does not protect. It waits." She paused, letting the words settle, and then recited in measured tones. "For what the eyes have seen, and what the ears have heard, let the tongue speak, lest the soul be cursed by unspoken words." The boy swallowed. "Did it really happen, Grandma?" She smiled, not with joy, but with knowing. "It happened," she said. "Your mother carried the pain, your grandmother carried the truth, and you carry the future." The fire crackled low. Outside, Igbeda rested quiet, watchful, remembering. The land always remembers. The women, the daughters, the mothers, the forgotten live on in the memory of the village. Their suffering became a story of vigilance, of the cost of silence, and of the unbroken chain of accountability. The village learned that even the oldest powers could fall, that a single act of courage, of sacrifice, could undo decades of deceit, and that the eyes, the ears, and the tongue must always bear witness.